One.
Welcome in, Husker Extra 2-minute drill. It's Monday afternoon in Parker. There's Sipple. Just got back from Memorial Stadium where we heard from Mario Verduzco, the quarterback's coach, and Adrian Martinez, QB1, as it were. And then a bunch of other people, Ryan Held, a couple of offensive linemen, Levi Falk, one of the wide receivers. So a bunch of stuff to get to today. We'll start with the quarterback. Adrian chatted with reporters for about 15 minutes, said that this offseason, he's really, it's been a good one for him, he feels like, because unlike last offseason, he didn't have to rehab from surgery, was healthier in general. I mean, he was beat up at the end of last year, but went into the offseason healthier than he did the year before. Said he's trimmed up by a couple pounds, feels fast, feels healthy. Levi Falk said sort of across the way that he thought Adrian was throwing the ball harder than he had at any point last year. And someone told Adrian that, and he said, "Oh, that's nice of him." He kind of smiled, but then he said, "Yeah, I agree with him. I wasn't going to say that, but yeah, I do feel that way." So clearly, wasn't that simple of a year for Adrian Martinez. A lot went on from getting benched and going through COVID and all that stuff to now.
He talked about it.
Yeah, what did you take away from it?
Well, my big takeaway, and I think you probably noticed this, and maybe it doesn't make as big an impression on other people. He's just so smooth with the media.
Yeah.
Adrian, he is smooth. He looks you in the eye when he answers. He answers every question. He's upbeat. He's a very, very, you can see why he would have appeal as a leader.
Yeah.
He's a very direct, he gives you direct answers to questions. He's polite. There's nothing about Adrian that comes off as phony or corny.
He doesn't get pushed around though. He'll answer a question the way he wants to answer it, and he won't say something that he doesn't want to say.
No, you're right. So, no, I thought, well, I'm interested in you're a writer. You're tasked with writing about Adrian, and there's a lot of directions you could go. What direction are you going to go?
Just that it's been sort of a complicated year for him. He got benched. He had to deal with that. He was hurt. He came back from that. Now he's at the helm of this offense that there's a lot of pressure for it to get better. And I thought it was interesting. Mario Verduzco was really said, "Hey, what is the to-do list for Adrian this offseason?" And he just said, "No more frickin' turnovers." That's what he said. That's it. He said that's the only thing. If he gets better on that, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the Big Ten. And even still, there's all these, Adrian said there's all these little things then that are also clearly part of the equation that go into that. Mario was asked about the competition between Luke and Adrian last year, and he said, most quarterbacks are self-starters by nature. And he's like, I sort of didn't realize how much Adrian needed that competition to get going. And then, but then he said, but I don't think that's going to be a problem this year because he understands that he needs to get himself, going and compete against himself every day to be better and be the quarterback he wants to be. Adrian said the same thing. Yeah, there's younger guys in the room. It's on me to not be satisfied with where I'm at every day. And I just think that conversation is a very interesting one because there's not at this point. There's no quarterback controversy. He's the guy, and Logan Smothers and Heinrich Haarberg are freshmen behind him. So it harkens back to going into 2019 when Adrian was clearly the guy, and it didn't work out the way he wanted it to work that year. So he said, we've got to avoid a repeat performance of that.
Right. He talked openly about the turnover thing. He said he wasn't as just uncomfortable with his interceptions as he is with the fumble issue.
Yeah.
Then elsewhere on the day, Levi Falk talked. Well, Ryan Held was also one of the coaches that addressed the media. He gave in great detail sort of the method that he has in his room for not fumbling. It's pretty intensive. It's not only in practice, Parker, it's even in warm-ups for games. They work on certain things and try to poke the ball out at random times. Guys got to always be mindful of it, even in warm-ups. So that was interesting. There's no I asked him directly, like, who's the favorite? I mean, who's the guys at the top of the depth chart? He said it's wide open. He did have a lot of praise for Gabe Ervin, the freshman.
Yep.
Said that he hates making mistakes, indicated he's a high level competitor. Now you might say, well, all of those guys are. No, I mean, some are much more high level than others. And he would be on the high end.
A couple quick things from Mario about the other guys in that room. He said Logan Smothers put on 10 or 11 pounds this offseason. And he said Heinrich Haarberg arrived on campus with a pretty clean throwing stroke. They really like where he's at throwing the ball. Now, he's got a lot to learn, obviously. He said, he's got to learn our dropbacks. He's got to learn our progressions and all of that. But he liked the physical progress that Logan Smothers has made. I think they're impressed with where Haarberg's starting point is. And he said he'd be comfortable with either of those guys from a knowledge standpoint of going in a game. But the thing that they've got to figure out, which is the $1 million question, is how can those guys operate? Physically, can they hold up? How do they operate? When the bullets are flying, like playbook wise, he's comfortable with them. But now they've got to figure out as much as they can, like, can one of those guys go win a game if Adrian's not available for whatever reason this fall?
That's a lot. I mean, this is a hard league, the Big Ten, to manage as a young guy. I mean, it is a hard league to do that.
It's not impossible, though. I mean, Adrian played well as a freshman. He's a talented guy, obviously.
True.
But he set a lot of records when he was a 18-year-old true freshman. So that's the question now for Nebraska is, do they have a guy in that room that can be a real number two, or do they have to, explore the portal after the spring? And Mario wasn't going there today. He said, first of all, that's Coach Frost's decision. And second of all, he's already said, we're going to go through the spring and figure it out after that. So, there's a lot going on. I'm sure there will be more. Sipple, anything else today?
Nope. We're going to have a full boat. You're doing a story on Adrian. We'll have a full notebook and maybe even a couple blogs.
So check HuskerExtra.com for all the latest, and thanks for watching.